Templates. Uh-oh, we're about to hear some dog noises, I think. It'll happen. I got some stinky dogs. All right, hey, looks like I'm live. So back to looking at Apache Beam. I just realized maybe yesterday, that I spent a lot of time talking to Beam and not a lot of time coding. So I'd like to fix that. I'm going to try and kind of fast forward through a couple things and get to where we're starting a new project. Before I do that, I really want to see what this looks like running up in GCP on the Dataflow runner. And I think that should go pretty easily. So I've got the bits for it, just need to basically call the right arguments. And then I'm excited to get this into a new project with Kotlin. Yes. And then we can look at putting this up on GitHub so you can mess around with it as well. All right. Uh-oh. Dog noises. One of my dogs is a talker. Anyway, so in order to get this to run into Beam, first I'm going to go ahead and set up a new cloud project for it. This is GCP. If you've never seen it before, it's basically Google's AWS or Azure kind of cloud type thing. So we'll call this Beam Streamin'. Streamin'? You know what? Let's just call this Beam because, oh gosh, that's not creating a new project. I want to create a new project. Sorry about that. We'll call this Beam YouTube, sure. Because I don't want to use the word stream. And I realized after I did that stream yesterday that I didn't talk about another one of the core tenets of Apache Beam, which is that it's meant to unify the model, not just between the programming language that you use to use it, not just the runner that you run it on, like whether it's Spark or Dataflow or Local or Flink, but also it's supposed to unify the interface between streaming and batch processing, which is pretty different from most of the stuff that I've seen or worked with. And so hopefully we'll get to see what that looks like. And I'm sure it's going to take me a while to get there because I'm still just kind of getting a sense of this. But after this is all done, I'll probably write an article on Dev2 or something that kind of tries to kind of show the value and how to get started in a way that in the way that I like to learn anyway. And hopefully that'll be valuable to somebody. And if not, it'll be valuable to me to write it and organize my thoughts. So I created a project. The first thing I'm going to do is set a budget. So that's very important, just in case somebody sees. How do I have a budget already? Current charges. Never mind. Sorry, out of it. I was streaming very early this morning, and now I'm streaming kind of late for me. I just happen to have a little bit of free time now, so I'm going for it. So I'm going to go ahead and set a budget up. I've done this a few times. We'll call it Beam YouTube. And we're going to apply it to Beam YouTube. All products, sir. And this will keep me from going over $20. All right, and we'll get notifications if we start getting too high. And hopefully that won't happen, but we should be good now. All right, cool. So should be good there. Now, I guess I should probably look at the getting started guide to make sure I'm not doing something crazy. But I do want to go ahead and start this up first because sometimes it takes a little while to kind of enable the API. I might take you up on that. Okay. Looks like that's actually not the case here. So this is pretty interesting though. Great from template. Ooh. So that's interesting. I'm not sure what all this stuff means, but I will be playing with this. This looks pretty cool. This looks like a good way to kind of get started. I'm a big fan of Avro. Very exciting. It's my Current favorite encoding. Ooh. Okay. All right. So we created a project. Okay. Make sure the billing is enabled. Okay. Should be. Enable the cloud Dataflow compute engine, stack driver logging, cloud storage JSON BigQuery, pub sub, data store, and cloud resource manager. I'm starting to think that maybe $20 was not enough. I don't know if I want to do all that. That's annoying. That'll be for the service count. Just kind of looking around, trying to decide if I actually want to go through with all that. So there's the code. That will generate it from the template. This is basically exactly what we ran, was it yesterday? The days are so long now. I don't know. Okay, yeah, that's all the same here. So this is the same command that we ran. So I'm going to go ahead and just run this locally. Just to make sure we're still in a good spot from yesterday. What? Mayan PowerShell? No. Okay. Okay, it still doesn't like the slashes. I think it might be the backtick in PowerShell. I forget. So we're going to go old school here and just put this all on one line, and we'll run it in CMD. All right. Oops. Forward up. All right, all in one line. There we go. Jeez, if it's not one thing, it's another. Okay. So we should run. Oh boy. Unknown lifecycle being class equals org Apache Beam examples dot word count. You must specify the valid lifecycle phase or goal. Didn't I do that with Maven compile? Isn't that a goal? Exec Java. Main class is org Apache Beam examples dot word count. Right there. Okay. So where you said that's the main class, looks pretty good to me. So what's the problem here? Unknown lifecycle phase dot main class. Oh my gosh. Did I delete a line? I don't know. That's weird. Man, well, this is frustrating. This is what code. This is me keeping it real. Yeah, that's it. This isn't me floundering. This is keeping it real. All right. So Apache Beam getting started. I'm basically gonna try and find the command that I ran yesterday because it just worked, and I don't know what I did differently. I mean, this is what I ran, isn't it? Look at that. So the direct for Linux is -d exec with no space. Over here, we do have a space. Does anyone know why that might be? I see, it looks like somebody's out there. Hello. Do you know why the arguments for Java would be different like that? Is that like a Linux thing where you can kind of combine the flag and the argument? Anyway, like I've mentioned before, I'm still kind of new to this whole Java ecosystem, or at least I should say I've been away for a long time. But we're back better than ever. All right. So this is the local runner. Same thing that we ran yesterday. It's going to split this thing up into bundles. Oh, another thing I found out after yesterday's stream is that pardo stands for parallel do. And so It's kind of like a signifier to you that this is something that is happening in parallel across potentially multiple machines. And it makes me wonder about those, what's it, P collection, and it's up here. P transform. Okay. So, I don't know if that's what the P stands for, but it stands to reason, right? But Pardue is like the big boy. I've been reading that streaming book with the fish on it a little bit more, and doing that kind of in conjunction with this, trying to mix a little bit of coding, a little bit of reading. All right, so now we're gonna just go away from that, and we're gonna come back here and look at this again. And so now, if I just take this, now that we know a little bit more, oh my gosh, take this into Notepad. See, this is what Windows devs have to do all the time. So much stuff is just not written for us. Not even considering us. How rude. Right. What did I do now? Oh my gosh. It's not seeing the end of the line. Oh boy. Always an adventure. Alright, what's the difference between these two things? Please tell me I'm not the only one that has to do crap like this just all the time. Am I just incapable, or is this like totally normal? I guess I could have just copied. There we go. What's the dang difference between these two lines? Oh, awesome. Coolbean is how I say it. What kind of stuff were you working in? I mainly do stuff with like Kafka, and I've done a lot of stuff with ETL with just like SQL Server and kind of, you know, standard programming tools. Wait a second. So when I ran this up here, So got quotes around this one. Not oh, I didn't have an ending quote. Is that all it was that whole time? Is that I was missing an ending quote right there? Okay, well, now I have to know. Now I got these stupid little lines in there. Don't leave me hanging, Coolbean. Oh man, look at that. I didn't add the freaking. There we go. Yeah. All right, let this be the start of our README. So, what's the path here? Oh man, WebSphere, awesome. Oh, I've never worked with WebSphere. What I do is get the file path. Sure. All right. Where is my code? Oh, sounds like my spouse is home. All right. So I am not going to check in this project. I'm going to start a new project, but I'm just going to go ahead and start taking some good notes in here. This is another thing, Windows. Oh, you know, this is probably off screen. Windows, you got to change the freaking all files. Anyway, I hate that. All right. Yeah, now I kind of want to look up WebSphere, because it's been a long time since I've really thought about it. Ooh. That looks pretty old school. It's nice old school. Definitely old school. Is it still kicking? All right. In the meantime, so I want to go on and I want to try and run this on the Dataflow service. So there we go. For the project requirements, specify the project ID. Okay, I can get that. And for the staging location and output, specify the name of the cloud storage bucket you created as part of the path. All right. And also, I'm going to open that README up wherever I put it. Where did I put it? Did I keep losing files. I don't know what's going on here. Man, I don't know what happened there. All right, whatever. To watch the feed. All right, readme.md. Yeah, sure. And let's go ahead and just open this over here because I don't want to lose this magic spell. All right. Bash, sure. All right, so we know that works. And now we want to basically do another one. Call this like local run, and this will be Dataflow. I don't know, now looking at your comment, Kobe, I don't know what eSQL files are. Is that like a template for SQL files? So you can like pop in variables or something? Let's take this over here. Oh, that's cool. Built-in SQL functions to parse through the incoming XML data. XML, man, awesome. Awesome. So I started professionally programming in like 2001 or something. So either you were working in code from around then or working on the code back then. Those are good times, man. Those are good times. So when did Jason win the war? It's like whenever Gmail came out. Ajax. I still miss XML. All right. And I'm guessing we've got more of this weird split argument thing. All right. We've got some stuff to fill in here. We can get that information. So I've got a new project over here. What's the easiest way to get the actual project ID? There we go. Whoa, did I? Oh, cool. Yeah. The only person who's ever come up with that ID, I guess. No magic numbers. All right. So the project ID goes right there. I guess I really shouldn't have this in the README file, but whatever. We're not checking this in anyway, so we're good. And I'm going to go ahead and create. Okay, I'm going to create a bucket over in storage. Okay, sure. I don't think anyone knew how SOAP pipelines worked. And SOA, service oriented architecture. Those were the days, man. Those were the days. Things have made so much sense then. Generating WSDLs, service discovery, everything's so loosey-goosey. Let's call this Dataflow example, sure. Oh my gosh. Or Beam YouTube. Something. Alright, I don't care about multi-region. Sure. That is probably fine. I don't care. That is also all good. Okay. Alright, now I've got a bucket. And I always forget how to access the bucket, but it looks like I've got it right here. So I think that'll do it. I hope that it will create the staging folder. If not, I guess we'll find out. Well, that's a staging location. Okay. And then we'll have one for output. Okay. Oops. So hopefully this works out. Runner equals Dataflow runner. Where's the other quote though? I only see one quote. Oh wow, okay. So it's all up here. Okay. So I'm fine with that. Man, XML had so much problems with XSLT transformations, XSDs, schemas. We were like reinventing all of that stuff for JSON now. And of course there's conflicting standards and, you know, all that fun stuff. All right, this is definitely not going to work. So a couple things I didn't do. I didn't follow the directions, essentially. So I come back over here and close the stuff that is not helping me. And I'm going to go back up. I always want to skip ahead. I'm impatient. I did create a cloud project. Billing is enabled. I did not enable all that stuff. I also don't want to enable all of that, but I think that we don't have to do all of that to get going. Obviously, cloud storage is on. I think cloud Dataflow is on. It looked like it was already on, so I probably messed with that a couple weeks ago and forgot about it. And actually, I think all this stuff is probably fine. I think that I have most of this enabled already, or we're not going to get that far into this example. So I definitely don't want to go crazy with it. I just want to see what it looks like when we run it up there. And then I want to do a file new project. So we're going to set up authentication. All right, we're going to create a service account key. And I'm probably going to do this off screen so that you don't steal my keys and flow all my datas. Let's see here. Use up my $20 budget. Oh, that's weird. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. I'll show you what I was looking at here in a minute. All right. I don't do this sort of stuff very often. I'm not really like a super big cloud player. All right, I'm going to add. Nope. I want to add a service account. I'm going to Google. There we, oh man. Make sure I'm on the right page. I could have done it via CLI. CLI is actually really consistent and good for G-Cloud. Did it really just tell me to do it via CLI? There's nowhere to do it in the console? That cannot be right. Is that right? Okay, well, I guess this is going to take longer than I wanted. That's how it always is. Is it managing? Nope. Alright, well, I guess I can put this part on. Let me look at the members we got here. These are service accounts. There's my email address. All right. Got some service accounts already set up doing stuff. All right, let's just see how this goes. Okay, so yeah, so I can just type it in this way. All right, looks like server at example.gserviceaccount.com. What domain should I be using? No, I just don't know. I don't know what that email address should be. Man, I hate getting dragged down on details like this. So I apologize and thanks for sticking with me. This stuff is so frustrating. So let's just try doing this via the console. Whoa, where'd my window go? There we go. Do. I just wanted to see what the output looks like. So what are you working on now, Cobian? Man, I did not think this was going to take so long. All right. So I'm going to create a service account named. I'm going to create a service account. I'm going to type this in another window apparently. All right. I'm going to create a service account named Beam-example. And hope I don't have to specify that email address. So, just testing Beam example, sure. All right. Okay, so we've got a service account. Let's see what email address I gave it. Okay, well, I guess I'm not looking at the right spot for a service account. Oh my gosh, there was a whole page for service accounts right here. Okay. It makes sense that it's the project name. Duh. Okay. All right. We're back into known territory. I told you I don't do this often. Okay. We're going to enable Dataflow, blah, blah, blah. Set up authentication. Oh, look, it even tells you right there. Oh, man. Okay, well, I definitely appreciate you sticking by because I have definitely started floundering. All right. We're just going to follow directions. All right. I tried taking a shortcut. No bueno. Go to the Create Service Account key page. All right. And from the new service account, in the service account name, fill in a name. From the role list, select project owner. That's pretty wide. Okay, but it'll give us access to everything, which is fine. And we'll do create, which will download the keys to my computer and hopefully not show it on this YouTube stream to all 2 of you. All right, Beam example, sure. Select role is going to be project owner. Okay, Jason is just fine. Okay. Store it securely. Okay, so that is good. we've got that file. And we're going to set an environment variable, name this, to the path of the JSON file with the service account key. Okay, that is fine. And over here in the README, let's say set this. I always forget how to set. I always forget how to set environment variables in Windows. Okay, yeah. So so Beam, and I should say definitely qualify. I am definitely new to Beam. I'm exploring it as an alternative to some other stuff that I'm doing with Kafka Streams libraries in particular, and as a little bit of Spark. And the way that it kind of works is that you set up a pipeline which defines a DAG. What I mean by DAG is acyclic graph. Directed acyclic graph. So just kind of a standard computer sciencey kind of graph. But when we talk about it in terms of like Apache Beam and stream processing, we're talking about, you can kind of think of as like business processes that process, filter, accumulate, enrich is a big word, transform, and generally do like kind of functional programming type stuff, but at a higher kind of system, distributed system type level. So the stuff that I use it for at work is basically security events, and cool. What we do is basically take in, say, some sort of log from a security system, and then we go and obviously I can't get into the specifics, but we enrich the data. So I look for additional information, maybe about that IP or about that user that's involved within that event. And then I kind of marry those, I join that data together. And the data might come from databases, might come from files, might come from Windows logs. So I'm basically mixing a mishmash of streaming data, event that's constantly flowing, and stateful data, things like about the entities involved, like the users or the computers. And what Beam gets me is it's this big abstraction that provides what they call a unified model, which lets me pick from a couple different programming languages like Python, Go, or Java, any Java languages, and they're rolling out a few others. And it lets me also abstract the runner underneath it. So if we look at like Apache Beam comparison, I'm just going to type one in here. If you're familiar with systems like Flink or Spark, or there's a couple others, Apex, that are kind of common in this kind of like I almost think of like an evolution of MapReduce. So these are processes that can be either streaming, so unbounded is the word I think is preferred to use, so it's basically infinite data that never ends, or bounded, which might be yesterday or last month's data. And what Beam lets you do is choose your language, like I mentioned, choose your runner, like Dataflow or Flink or Spark. And then the third part is it lets you have a unified way of programming whether the data is bounded or unbounded, so batch or streaming. You write the same code for either, and if the data is coming in repeatedly, or you have some files to process, just kind of static, you use the same code for it. And the effect that has is that it makes it really good at kind of dealing with both, which particularly helps you with like late arriving information. And let me see here. I've got some notes I've been taking on a book I've been reading that has a nice graph that I grabbed. And the main problems that I'm trying to kind of get at solving, and I'm hoping that this unified model is going to help me with, is that there's this big varying skew. Reading your comment. Yeah, streaming data as well. And you can mix them. And so what that means for me is I can do things like maybe run a machine learning job that compares a bunch of events. But because of this potential delay between when the event actually happens and when the event is observed by me in my like data pipeline. Things get off and get kind of funky. And sometimes I might have later writing data that occurs after I've already processed. And so what I want to happen is I want that data to come in and actually update the results of my machine learning processing without having to reprocess that whole job. So it just treats it as like another event that, as if almost like it existed at the time the data should have come in. And this is great if you have really late arriving data or the skew varies a lot. So the example I hear a lot is like with mobile phones, like maybe you're on a subway or something, so your phone doesn't send clickstream data or the data you worked with for 8 minutes. You're offline, and then you get out of the elevator at the subway, and then suddenly you reconnect and you push this stuff. And so it makes it hard to do certain kind of windows of processing. And all of this basically ties in. What I'm really trying to do is get to where I'm doing like machine learning processes or data enrichment filtering, and I'm programming my business logic very simply. And I'm using the muscle and the brains that Beam has to kind of take care of these nasty problems that arrive when you're dealing with real-time data. So I can go ahead and present the information that I have to the users whenever I have it, as soon as possible. And then if data comes in late, then we'll update that information and it will always be more accurate. So Beam is supposed to provide me with tools that help me give the most correct version of the data at any given time. It's supposed to give me tools for conveniently dealing with these DAGs and orchestrating these big distributed system kind of MapReduce jobs. And it's supposed to give me tools for dealing with this kind of skew between event time and processing time. And cool windowing with updating my results, even with late arriving messages. So that's a mouthful. Hopefully I kind of explained it a little bit. But as a programmer, what I want to do is I want to write my business logic. I want to write in code what should happen to my data very simply. And then I want all these tools around me to take care of all the weird common use cases between all these different platforms. And so I've got a local runner, which they don't even show up here. It's basically how you can run Beam. I guess it's probably the Beam model. And then I'm going to try and run it on Dataflow now. And then eventually I've got kind of Flink in mind. It looks like a lot of people are really excited about Flink. And so it's another programming model that is meant to kind of unify streaming and batch operations and kind of erase some of those lines and make that easier so that I don't have to write code about that. Just in the same way, like I like to split up and use things like MapReduce so I don't have to worry about and write code about splitting up work between workers and putting this data back together and what happens if a worker goes down. I don't want to deal with any of that. That is not unique to the problems that I'm solving. I want to focus on the business domain and work at a higher level. So yeah, that's why I'm checking this out. And I love questions, by the way, so I'm more than happy to ramble all day long. All right, so where were we? So we have to set this environment variable, and I want to go look up. Oops. Set environment variable windows. No, I don't want to do it there. Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt. If you don't have to work with real-time data, then life is much easier, especially if you've got those bounded contexts so you can just kind of cap things off. I'm hoping that Beam is the right tool. It's not the only one, but it seems to kind of unify things, and it's pretty new. So it's too early to really say if this is going to take off or not. I think it was just released like... Yeah. The release date's kind of weird, but we'll call it in the last like 2 years that's really kind of come out, and they've started pushing really hard from Google and released it as an Apache project. So yeah. I'm excited about it. I don't want to set the path, man. Here's what I should have done: is just set environment variable PowerShell. I think it's like env :env maybe. And I'm not setting. Oh my gosh. Why is it so hard to just see how to set environment variable? Oh my gosh, is that it? Just $, whatever equals. Okay. That's ridiculous. All right. Certain things I just Google every day. But in fairness, I do kind of bounce between like bash and PowerShell and command, Z shell, and then it was whatever the name of the variable is, which I thought I put in the README. Okay. Equals. All right. Heck yeah, man. Thinking is good. I really do believe that real-time human interfaces are a super good investment right now. If you think about something like a Uber, there's nothing new about Uber in their like use case, right? Like people have been ordering taxis forever, but what they did change is how people interact. And so I just think that's super interesting use case. And I think it's kind of spoiled users, spoiled people on that kind of real-time interaction. And so it feels totally baroque to refresh a page now. And even to hit a little refresh button just seems kind of strange. I think people are coming to expect those real-time interactions in tools like WebSockets, GraphQL subscriptions, SignalR. That all makes it really easy to make these real-time updates in websites. And so why not try to get ahead of the curve and work with back-end and front-end technologies that kind of make it easier to do stuff like this. So if you don't, then the danger is that you might get left behind. Let's go ahead and copy this. Can I just drop that there? No, of course not. Let's try this again. No, I get confused. I have so many computers. Too many projects. It's under experiments. Workout Beam. All right, this is the one. I should also mention that I'm frequently wrong. So I've not always bet on winners, but I do think this is for real. Oh, and that, you know what? That's not the full path. All right, let's try this again. So we've got the path to my credentials. Whoa. Which I just showed on the screen somehow. Okay. I don't even know how that happened. Why did it open it? I was just trying to set it. Well, good thing I got a budget. I mean, what the hell? Pardon my French. Why? Why did that open code? Am I crazy? I mean, I'm setting an environment variable. Oh, but I'm in PowerShell. It's dark, but that is an equal sign. Env variable name equals. I guess I could have put it in quotes. Okay. Well. I guess I will generate some new credentials. Be responsible. Alright, we'll trash that key. And we'll create another key. Alright. And we'll ditch this one. And drop this one in. Okay. That's ridiculous. Alright. Let's see if it works this time. Okay, now if I echo this, it should just be the file path. Okay, so that looks good. So we're on like step 2 now. It's only been like 46 minutes. Alright, well that was fun. Okay, so we set the environment. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Why can't I read? I literally went and Googled this and it was right there. They even have the quotes. Okay. I have no excuse. Yeah, I've worked with my favorite problem with batch jobs that run nightly are when the batch jobs take more than 24 hours. Or like it's running, like you come in the morning and it's been running for 8 hours, and like no one will stop it because it could be done any minute, right? And if you stop it, you have to start it all over again. So it's just a scary thing, and that's one of the things that is beneficial about streaming data is that you process it as it comes in, and so if there's a problem or something, then theoretically you can fix it right then. But that also means you have to be on guard all the time. So yeah, being on call stinks. Create a storage bucket. Okay, we already did that because I went out of order, didn't pay attention. We gave it a unique name. We did make it standard. Specify, sure. Click create. We've already got Java installed. I already installed Maven, even though it upset me. Or no, we didn't install Maven last time. Last time I streamed this, I ended up finding the Maven that goes bundled with IntelliJ because that offended me. So that was yesterday's obsession and distraction. Okay, so this is the stuff that I already have. It looks good. I ran it locally. Now we should be able to run this up on Dataflow and see what it looks like. So I think in the README, I even copied this already. So what are the odds that this is just going to work without us having to fuss with anything else? I'm going to say 50%. I'm feeling optimistic. Okay, looked interesting. On project workout Beam, an exception occurred while executing the Java class. We're missing a required value for -- output. Path of the file to write to. Well, I see it right there. So what happened? Also, why did it take 4 seconds to get to there? Kind of curious. I guess it was downloading stuff. Missing required value for output. Path of the file to write to. Output. So it's still very weird to me to even be doing this stuff in a compile. That makes me a little queasy. When I start this project, when I start a project for Beam from scratch, I'm going to make it so you just hit the play button. I don't like all this stuff. I'm sure it's all important that you do it for good reasons, and I'll understand after I do things wrong for a while. I'm not sure if you're asking about this project, which is a sample, like the kind of getting started guide one that basically just counts words. And the output of it is basically a bunch of files that look like this. So it goes through and it just feels like a MapReduce job. The project at work is basically just a data ingestion pipeline that takes in a bunch of data and tries to process it and run a bunch of kind of jobs to process it, those events really quickly, and get that information out to the user as soon as possible so they can act on that information as soon as possible. So if there's another heartbleed or shell shock attack or something, or a crypto, what do they call it? Like some sort of attack on your network, you want to know about it as soon as possible, not 24 hours later after the batch job runs or whatever. So that's where I'm getting at with it. And this is definitely trivial. This actually used the POM file as the input. So these are all, well, I thought it was until I saw this. I don't think this stuff, oldness, firmament. Okay, so I don't know where I got that text file from. Yeah, it's a word count. It's like every stupid like streaming application always has a word count. It's like their hello world. So all the Kafka stuff is all written around word count too. Yeah, so the code in here is super boring. And there's a lot of it. There's a lot of boilerplate, which is really unfortunate. And it's nothing that they're doing wrong. It just, I think it's just the nature of the problem. But all the work that actually happens, the code that matters is like these two lines, where basically we par do, which is parallel do, we extract the words, and then down here we count them. Yep, very exciting, huh? And this is a custom class that we've got that extends transform. So we're basically saying this is a transformation step in a pipeline. So the stuff that I mentioned at work, like processing security events, we're probably going to have a bunch of classes kind of like this that are transforms or filters or aggregations or split or map, things like that, expand. And we're going to kind of chain those things together and ultimately create a big DAG that we can kind of hopefully orchestrate and manage from external to the application. So that means that programmers like me just get to basically focus on these two lines. And so hopefully the work that I actually have to do, instead of being this big complex processing pipeline, just ends up being a bunch of little small, easily testable applications that are easy to reason about. And then we have good like tracing frameworks and logging around, because it's going to be difficult. Definitely observability is a problem with stuff like this. Like you put messages in and they don't come out the other side. How to actually send some data from a Java into the pipeline and then print the data in real time in another application. So, I wonder what the easiest way to kind of show you that is. I've got a little project that I've got that does something like that. I'm trying to think how long it would take me to actually get it up and running. Send some data from a Java into a pipeline. So, like one kind of good example for receiving data is like serverless functions. Those are things that sit out there and listen, almost like a webhook. So when they receive a message, yeah, except I don't want to. I do want to stream in data, but I want to stream in a lot of data. So kind of in game, like if I think about what I would want out of this, kind of whenever I do file a new project, and what I want to happen is I want to have maybe like a little dinky cell phone app, maybe just a website or something with like location services. and then I could walk around with the phone or wave it around in the air, and I should see things change, in like Elasticsearch or something, or maybe even just Grafana or some sort of real-time kind of analytics-y kind of thing that tracks the movements. I've done some kind of experimenting with Google Maps, so I think that's really kind of fun. But it's kind of hard to test if I need to go out there and move around in the real world to kind of see my location update in real time. So, yeah. I haven't really thought a whole lot about what the actual project might be. That's probably a pretty good thing. Like, I keep talking about doing file new project, but I haven't defined what I want to do with that. So now you got me thinking. I don't know. Have any ideas? I kind of made a Pokemon Go clone. Let's see. I'll show you a little screenshot from it. Eventually, it's somewhere in here. All right. So this was from when I was experimenting with streaming on Twitch. This is an application that would show aliens, and the aliens would kind of show up for a little while, and you could click on them and see information about them, and then they would disappear. And so the idea was that these were like UFO sightings popping up all over the place on the Google map. So it was like Pokemon Go, if you ever saw that game. I was a big fan of that, where you could kind of like walk around in the real world and be like, oh, a Pikachu just spawned, and you could catch it or whatever. So maybe that would be something good there, because on one side you have something that's kind of generating data about creatures or whatever spawning in the real world, and on the other side you've got this mobile application or something that's kind of taking or requesting information about things going on near you. So the streaming environment in the back end has got a lot of stuff happening all over the world. It's spawning these creatures, because it's very important that two people playing the same game together see the same creatures to make it feel like it's real. And so I think that would be fun, and I already have a front end for it, I guess. So maybe that would be a good thing to kind of adapt here. And the enrichments, like when I talked about enrichment, what I was talking about, like an example in this particular case, would be taking information about the aliens, like things like the picture and text descriptions of the aliens, things like that. And I don't know if I have any pictures of what that looks like. I didn't think I tweeted that much, but there we go. Yeah, so this is what it looks like when you click on one. And so things like the description, the name of the alien, the image, all that sort of stuff, description down there, is stuff that is relatively static. It's tabular about these aliens, and things like the sighting and the counts. Right into the grid. Yeah. So those are the kind of information that would add. Yup. So what else do we have to do to get this running? This is the stupidest thing. It's always stupid problems. Why is it always stupid stuff like this? An exception occurred while executing the Java class. Missing required value for output. You could set a breakpoint. But it's weird for me to still think about setting a breakpoint, because I'm compiling. How do you set a breakpoint during compilation? So this stuff is goofy. I don't like this. I think they did this for a good reason. They wanted you to be able to run a one-liner and change the execution engine and other things about it, which is cool. But I don't know. That's just not how I want to work. Beam staging location equals blah. I wonder if it has to do with how I kind of separated these lines. So let's take a look at that. Guess I could split. Yeah, I like that. Kaggle has cool data too. Kaggle UFO sightings. Sightings. So this is static data. It's not streaming, but it's still kind of cool. But there's actually a lot of information out here on like UFO sightings. I forget how to look at it now. Yeah, there's like 28 megabytes of data on real UFO sightings. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Oh man, there's so much cool stuff on Kaggle. But what I really want is just moving data. But I mean, that's the whole thing with Beam is I should be able to take static data, get it working, and maybe I could do like a mock generator or something that would fire off messages to PubSub or something like a Kafka or some sort of PubSub kind of thingamajig. I wonder what the craziest data on Kaggle is. I don't know. Okay, that's. I'm gonna go and try to see what I can find on Kaggle. Maybe there's like, I don't know, poltergeist sightings or something, or I don't know, Bigfoot. Okay, I gotta look at Bigfoot. I'm sorry. I have to know if there's data on Bigfoot. I wanted to see data. All right, that's pretty cool. It's small. Sure. Have my data. It's fine. It's worth it. Okay. I'm sorry. I think there's a way to preview this without actually opening it, but all right, that's pretty cool. It's not a lot of data, but I've got latitude and longitude. Titles are pretty boring, but oh no, actually they're better than I thought. So yeah, that's pretty cool. How many do we have here? So there's 3. Oh, you can't see the end. 3,800 Bigfoot sightings. That is pretty cool. Kaggle's the best. What can I say? And no, it's really cool. Is I don't know anything about machine learning, but a lot of times people will do things like they'll post their models or something that they've used to generate to do something cool. So if you've got an inclination to do something neat, then this is a good place to do it. And people will create notebooks and stuff and see, oh, like stuff like this. Oh my gosh! Sorry, I gotta look at my house. Oh, there is one not too far. I live kind of in the middle of here. Homeowner hears possible howls east of Winter Springs. Okay, good to know. Best friends recall watching their dirt bike canvas by a hairy biped while something. I can't see what the something is. That's awesome. Alright, I grew up around here. Nighttime sighting. Okay. Footsteps heard in the wood line. Probably Bigfoot. Weeks later, there were more sounds heard in the wood line. Okay. So this is pretty spooky stuff. Ooh, shiver. Alright. Maybe I'll try to do something cool. Maybe next presentation will center on Bigfoot. Alright. And hey, if I disappear, you'll know it's because I was on to Bigfoot. The thing with real time is there's kind of no such thing as real time. There's always latency involved, and it's just a matter of how much you can deal with and how much data you have coming in. Heck yeah, man. Dude, sockets are really, really awesome. Really fast, low level stuff, and WebSockets are really great too. You maintain a persistent connection between like the client and server, and you can pass information back and forth really quickly. I use WebSockets in that little alien thing. I'll try to get that running. Why isn't this running? Tell you what, let's go and I open this over here. What if this is all just on one line? got rid of the PowerShell weirdness, and we just did it. Oh, it's looking good. I don't want to get my hopes up though. Okay. Failed to construct instance from factory method Dataflow from options. No files to stage has been no files to stage has been found. Okay, and that might be okay actually, because I didn't upload any files anywhere. Yeah, you know, it's not really that HTTP. Well, I mean, I'm sure this is what you're saying, but HTTP isn't necessarily slow, but there's overhead. Like if you look at a browser in like the network tab, XHR, I'm sure there's like everyone's doing like Ajaxy stuff now. Yeah, so here's a ton of it. If you look at this, and you look at like the headers and the response headers, like all that stuff, all this junk is just overhead. And it's not junk, like all of it is important for whatever. But ultimately, like for the most part, all your code really cares about is like this kind of raw dump of data. So in this case, it's a lot, but there's just a lot of overhead. So if you're doing like tiny little messages, then the overhead of the response and the request headers, it's just too much. And even TCP, there's a lot of handshaking stuff. So with games, I would assume they're doing sockets, and I would assume a lot of times, yeah, I don't even know if they're doing TCP. I don't really know. I've read a couple articles on how some games do it, but I don't know. I think it's really important for games to maintain its consistent state. So I think that's why you probably see like characters kind of warping in multiplayer games or something like that. Like because like where you see me needs to be where I am. It can be like no jitter. So we got to kind of sync up states if we get out. That's where like lag and latency can cause that kind of warping or pausing to try to keep a consistent game world between multiple clients. Let's see. Are they doing any WebSockets on this page? I don't see any. I'm trying to think like what's a page that would have WebSocket stuff. I bet something like this, yeah. So if we look at the WebSocket, I guess you call it tab inside the network tab, then we can see the messages that are going back and forth for Slack. So hopefully we don't see anything sensitive in here. But these are all like little kind of messages going back and forth, maybe maintaining, maybe, I don't know what they're doing with that, I can't even guess. But what's nice about that is the headers and all that jazz basically happened once, and the messages just keep on streaming. So you can see they've sent all these, but there's only one set of headers. So we were able to kind of get rid of the handshake and all that stuff. Yeah. And so UDP is awesome for stuff like video streaming, where if you drop the packets, it's not worth trying to kind of catch that up. We don't really care about a consistent state. We just care about delivering you the best quality service now. But yeah, so man, look at, they do it's really chatty. I don't know, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. I don't know what all that stuff is, but pretty interesting. Yeah, so that's definitely interesting stuff to me. Also, information on sessions, like I showed this screenshot earlier. I'm very interested in sessions, and it's kind of difficult. Like, if you ever seen a report for like, I don't know, like a sales or marketing report or something, a lot of times they'll look at like, say, cart abandonment, which means that somebody came to your website, did some stuff, and then ultimately they didn't complete that transaction. And so you might track that as marketing and try to say like, oh, okay, we've had a lot of abandonment lately. Maybe that means that our checkout page changes are made it harder for the users to understand, or maybe there's a bug or something, or maybe there's something we can do to encourage people to get past this part of the funnel. But the problem with that is the only way you know when a session ended. Oh, what's up, Ty? Okay, cool. Nice to meet you. Tyrannosaurus, awesome. Appreciate that. king of the dinosaurs. The only way to tell when a session is over is because there's some predefined period of inactivity. And how do you decide how long is too long? Like, is it 20 minutes before you consider my cart abandoned? What if, I talked about that mobile story. I go inside the subway and I lose, real time is funky. The point is it's just hard to tell really when a session's over. And so if I do something like even real-time processing, every night at midnight I run a batch process that takes 3 hours and it looks at cart abandonment rates. Anyone who's shopping at midnight gets kind of cut off and it distorts my numbers. Or if I log in the morning and I complete that transaction, then we've kind of done this weird thing where we set an artificial boundary on that session where we said after 1 hour of inactivity it's over, who cares? But maybe that's not good enough. Maybe we should never have, maybe all sessions should continue. I mean, depends on your use cases and obviously how many customers you have and stuff like that. But imagine if you had a tool that managed and kept sessions essentially alive. So we could look at cart abandonment for yesterday, and maybe those numbers are accurate because all the information has come in. But if I do get any late arriving data, like say like a server was down for a little while and when we turn it back on, it forwards some information we didn't know about, then this session data is we want it to update. Basically we want it to become correct. And that's a business call too. You may not want it to become correct. It may be better for your system to be consistent and deal with inaccuracies. And maybe consistency is more important. It depends. I'm working in security, so I want whatever data you can give me, and I never want to lose it because that lost packet could be super important, and I may not have no other way of knowing that information, so I never want to lose it. All right. So over here in the instructions, I'm going to try to figure out what step I skipped. And it's probably something silly like either needed upload the files or maybe this command that I did not run because I had already ran something similar maybe creates it. I don't know. Run word count locally. Okay, fine. Run it on the Dataflow service. We're so close. For the staging, location, and output arguments, specify the name of the cloud storage bucket you created as part of the path. Staging location. Did I just miss something here? Did they ever mention the word staging before this part? Okay, hey, yeah, look at that. You should see the output files and staging files that your job created. That makes it sound to me like it should have uploaded those files. So that's kind of weird. I'm going to look at this error message one more time and hopefully it's going to be super obvious now. Failed to construct instance from factory method. Dataflow runner. From options, pipeline options, build from method. Okay, from options. Let's scroll up a little bit more. And a little bit more. So that's where I ran it. Scanning for projects. Warning, using platform encoding. I don't care about that. Hey, look at that. Skip non-existing resource directory. Source main resources. That's kind of weird. Why don't I have that? Source main. Okay, I guess I really just truly don't have it. Nothing to compile, fine. Try create default bucket. Info, no templication specified. Attempting to use default bucket. Dataflow staging US Central. Oh, you know what? I made this bucket regional. Was it something? Let's see. Back up here in the instructions that I didn't read very well. Create bucket. Unique name. Default storage class. Regional is the default. So let's see. Can we change the region? Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I have Raspberry Pi doing nothing. That's cool. That is way above my head. That I don't know anything about machine learning. Maybe there's some sort of cool library someone could find for like recognizing a face. I don't know. That would be awesome. I could harass my wife. That sounds like it'd be fun. So here's my bucket. Can I make it regional? Or multi-region, I should say. Why did I do fine-grained? All right, let's try deleting it and recreating it. Oh, look at that. They created one for us, just like they said they did. Whoa. All right, give them a high five for me. US Central 1. Let's see. I don't want to see the details. I want to see what's in it. Yeah, man. I think Bernie be down with that. I'm down with that. Oh, man. I wonder if the primaries would have gone any different if this whole crisis hit like just a month earlier. Also, what am I smoking? Why can't I figure out how to see what's in this stupid bucket? Oh, is that the cat from Nico Atsumutse? Heck yeah, man. I live in Florida, man. We don't actually pay attention to the votes. Oh, okay, jeez. It says right there. Alright, I must be smoking something to not have seen that. No, I am curious why it... No temp location specified. So it created that bucket for us. That's awesome, man. So it can talk to Kafka. So that or Kafka. It can talk to GCP, which means that the setting is correct. So environment variable took. So what's the problem here? I mean, this is standard. Like every time I look at a Java error, it always looks like this. I tried to actually run the word count. No files to stage has been found. Did I goof up something here? I mean, I passed the staging location. Am I crazy here? GS storage bucket / staging. So I passed it. Yep. Was I supposed to put the files up there? Does it say something about the files? This is so frustrating. I wish, man. I wish. Especially when it, like, you just end up down a rabbit hole like this. Browser. Buckets. My word count storage bucket. There's the staging folder and there's the output. That's exactly what I want to see. How did the files get up there? Again, I'm at a point where I've been on this thing for over an hour and I haven't even changed a line of code. Man, let's create bucket. Create bucket. No sensitive information. Alright, let's create another bucket. Buy buckets. Let's get rid of these things. I think my happiness coding is directly in proportionate to the amount of time I spend on web pages Googling how to do whatever I'm trying to do. Stream Beam, how about that? Globally unique. Oh my gosh. Oh, please work. Okay, multi-region. We're going to leave it multi-region this time. Standard, just like we said. Okay. Specify access to individual objects using ACLs, in addition to your bucket level permissions. I'm fine with uniform. Uniform access to all objects in the bucket using only bucket level permissions. Okay. Becomes permanent after 90 days. That's weird. Don't care about that. Alright, so over here, I need to change my stream beam. And the output should be its own folder. I mean, that all looks so good, right? Please work. Okay, can we all admit that the code is perfect? My execution is flawless. And there's just bug in the framework. No files to stage has been found. Occur while executing the Java class. Failed to construct instance from factory method from options. From options. That's down somewhere in the frame, somewhere in their code. Dataflow runner. From options. No files, the stage has been found. I think I'm just going to put a file up there. Let's take a look at their... Oh, look at that. Look at that. I didn't even notice this. So if you don't pass an input file, it just grabs it from what I assume is a public... Oh, wow. So that makes me feel a little better that it wasn't just counting the words in my POM file, but it was actually counting the words in King Lear, which is probably a long book. I've never read it. Long play. It's kind of an interesting choice for a sample. So it should have copied this. Yeah, apparently me either. And I can't read code or just, normal English telling me how to run code. Path of the file to write to. Text just reads it. So let's see. Look at my arguments here. Too much stuff on the screen. All right. Oh, I ran it. I didn't mean to run it. Let's try that again. Oh my gosh. All right, so I don't pass an input file. I set the project. Okay. The staging location. I never did create a staging bucket. Staging folder. I don't feel on the next level, Ty, tell you the truth. I'm feeling pretty frustrated. I want to throw a tantrum on the floor. This is driving me nuts. It's past my bedtime. Nothing's working. And my execution is flawless. Why is it so hard? Please work. Okay, I'm grasping at straws. I don't think I created that stupid thing again. I don't think I need to create a folder called staging, but I will. Because I'm at that point in the project where I'm willing to code by coincidence. Deal with the devil. Did we get a different error message? No files to stage has been found. No files to stage has been found. Wonder if I just Google that. Maybe this is a common problem. Oh my gosh. Why didn't I do this the first time? Somehow I get an error that no files to stage has been found. Yes, this is my problem. Upvote. This is a bug. In 2.19.0. It works in 2.18.0. I'm using OpenJDK 8 on Windows. I didn't look to see. I think I'm running OpenJDK 11 on Windows. Also, some unit tests are failing. Asked 29 days ago. So I was kidding when I said I think it's a bug in the framework. Why does everybody hate Windows? All right. Is it 2.19? It's 2.19, man. Oh my god. Is it anywhere else in here? Wow. Okay, let's try this again. That's hilarious. That's right. Oh my god, it's working now. So how much of our lives did I just waste on that error? Oh my gosh, I had so much more planned to do. Wow. Hey, Greg, what are you doing? You were up early this morning, and now you're up late. Do you sleep not very much like me? That's so crazy, man. I can't believe that it was a framework bug. Geez. Let's see what the people said about it. Let's see. I'm going to upvote this as well. Files to stage. Well, man, they even found the where the error. They mentioned the reference. Man. Any comments? This is already fixed and should be part of the upcoming 2.20 release. And this was just a few days ago. Man. Wow. What did we do here? Cool. Yeah, actually, I guess I usually sleep between like 6 to 8, but a lot of times it ends up being 6. That's how I end up doing coding challenges at 6 in the morning. So I haven't seen any interesting code here. I guess they just changed some namespaces around or something. I don't know. But what I can do is oh, they already referenced it, but they've got a link down here for, well, they don't have a link to the actual fix here, but whatever. I can leave a comment. All right. Whatever, I'll leave a comment even though it's not totally helpful. To the same problem, dropping down to 2.18. Fixed it. It sounds like there is a fix coming in 2.2. Problems, Windows 10, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify. So Control Shift S, Control Alt Shift S, that it is Java version 11.0.5. Oh, and JDK, it's the one that came with JetBrains, so I don't know what version that is. I don't have kids. No thank you. Let's see, it sounds, I'm enough of a kid. According to Beam-9471. Okay, so awesome, man. I try to avoid just Googling for error messages. One, because it so rarely comes up with something. It's like I try to have it be like a last resort. But man, maybe I should change that. Maybe I should start with that in the future. Well, I hope you're safe. My whole state is basically quarantined, and my state does not have a good track record with obeying laws. Oh, but so the whole reason I was doing this, by the way, wasn't for this output. I don't really care about this. It's surprisingly different actually from the local runner, but rather because I wanted to see what it looked like in Dataflow. So we should see, yes, 540 Desmond. Oh my gosh. At my house, it's 1141. So that sounds like you're over in UK. I got some buddies in the UK. Have you heard of the Tabs and Spaces podcast? Tabs and Spaces. Tell them Joe Zach sent you. They're awesome. I love those guys, all of them. Amazing. Yeah, so we ran the job. It was a nightmare to get it running. It was a framework bug. And this is what I wanted to see. So this is basically executing information about what we ran. And I mentioned a DAG earlier, the directed acyclic graph. And that's what this is. It's just a very boring one. And so what I'd like to do is kind of, I'm going to file a new project next time. I'm not going to do it tonight. File a new project. We'll do it in Kotlin. We'll get the libraries hooked up. We'll get it working with a local runner. And, oh yeah, man, check it out. It's really good. Local runner, and they're brand new too. They just started. And I'll get it working in Dataflow, and maybe we'll take a look at other ones eventually. And then we'll get a more exciting graph up here. And we should be able to click into here. And if this job ran multiple times, the metrics would be more interesting. We'd be able to see kind of changes over time, things like that. One of the nice things about Dataflow, that's specifically the job execution engine that I'm running. That's right. Is that it's serverless. So I don't have anything to say about how many nodes it's running in the background, like all that sort of stuff. However many workers it has is all determined by the framework. A newer version exists. Yeah, it hasn't been released yet. Jeez, they haven't updated the template, which the template is dumb anyway. But yeah, and this is only a part of the metric. So I'm definitely interested in benchmarking, and so that is a big part of what I need to do at work, because I've got some processes running in Kafka streams that I'm looking at replacing. So I need to know how this compares to that. So I'm highly interested in the throughput, both bytes per second, and typically I tend to think about like elements per second or messages per second. So I'm not quite sure how to read this yet. So I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time with our code to really understand it. I kind of just wanted to see one number. It's like, hey, 18 million messages per second, but it doesn't really make sense if you're counting the number of words in a book. But I'm glad you think it's not boring, because I think this stuff is cool too. We've got other things to look at too. Like I didn't expand these very much, but this actually maps really closely to the work. And so what I was kind of saying earlier is basically this is the part of the application that I want to focus on. And what I want my coworkers to to focus on is basically writing these little executions that are super easy to test. You can write unit tests about them very easily. Beam has some stuff built in for that I want to look at as well. And we'll just be able to do this stuff, and then we'll orchestrate it into a bigger pipeline. And I didn't show that code today, but basically the way the pipelines look, they use the word apply. So this is the part of the code that actually orchestrates what's going on, and you'll see that this maps really closely to that diagram in Google DataFlow, where the first part of the pipeline is we read lines, we count the words, we do a little bit of formatting, and then ultimately we write to the cloud storage bucket the results, which we haven't looked at the results yet, but not very exciting. That's right. Boring stuff makes you stronger. But yeah, this is like the world's most boring DAG. So I'd like to see some stuff. I'd like to see some splitting, some filtering, things like that, and dead message queues. I'd like to get some data moving in via Kafka, and maybe we'll get that cute little alien demo hooked up on the front end. So we'll see this kind of running in streaming mode in addition to batch. So I want to go in a lot of directions, and I think I'm going to keep reading the book. I'm going to try and do some experimenting on my own, so I don't bore you guys too much should you choose to join back in. I'd like to actually start writing some code, you know? That's what this is all about. Like, I don't want to just click around in a web UI all the time. That's true. I have not done any elite code tonight. That's past my bedtime, and I've got 15 minutes before midnight, and I need to check on my Animal Crossing island. Very important. So we got logs. That's pretty cool. And I believe these logs are basically, I think this is like a portal into the stack driver logs, which is like what GCP uses for their kind of logging. I forget what AWS calls it. And no errors. All right, so it's probably not going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm looking at maybe doing some pair programming with Mad Viking God. If y'all are in Slack, he's super awesome. We're working on a Kubernetes linter. He's teaching me about Go, which is really awesome. So that'll be on his Twitch channel, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, so we're at a good spot now where we're able to run this thing. We know what the problem was, and so probably Wednesday is going to be coding blocks recording. So probably Thursday, Friday, getting back to this, and we'll do the file new project, and we'll do it in Kotlin. Because, man, Kotlin is beautiful. I do have a big head. In every sense of the word. There's only like a few hats in the world that fit me, including this one from MS Dev Show, another podcast that I love. I'm a podcast addict. Although I'm not driving anywhere now, so I don't listen too much. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, hanging out. It's been a lot of fun. Nice seeing everybody. And next time is going to be super awesome. And also, I'm going to spit out a blog post here in the next couple days once I get that file new project up. So if you're interested in kind of getting up and going, hopefully we'll cut all this bull crap and it'll just be like a git clone and you hit the play button, which is how I think projects should be. So anyway, y'all have a good night or a good morning, Desmond.